anything in people's minds and stuff like that at this time, and just to give John a little bit of a feel of the people he's speaking with and the zones that they're in and all that stuff. And John, it's so good to see you. Thanks for taking a minute. I know you got an awful lot of things on the go, and John and I go back to around 2000 or something, John.
How about that? Yeah.
And at that time, he was working with a company called Sparks Co., which some of you may be familiar with, and he's done a lot of things preceding that, and a lot of really cool stuff since. And so what I wanted to do, John, just in a real brief minute, if you don't mind, just what's your background a little bit, and tell us what you're up to today.
Sure. Yeah. First, I'd like to say thanks for inviting me. It's great to meet all of you and hear what's going on, and I'd like to hear more. Yeah, Dean, I think you're showing just how old we are by saying how far back we go. But
oh, geez, eh?
Yeah, but yeah, I've been in this business a long time. I won't say how long, but I started off as a merchant with Cargill, and basically went to Cargill U, as they call it. Somebody once said if at a conference, if we had a hospitality suite with all ex-Cargill employees, the place would be full.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good place to start. When I went there, the guy I was working with before that's a great spot to start. So I started there. I went on the trading floor as a local after that, and traded my own account, filled paper for others. I don't know, that was maybe 5 years. And then I was asked to join the exchange senior management as director of marketing. So I was there. We look at everything that's going on in the industry to see if any changes were going to impact the futures contract. While I was there, shortly after I started, actually, some of you may remember 1994, we had a market squeeze. Market manipulation, as we call it, demoralization, and I was put in charge of the investigation of that. If you're younger than that, what happened was XCAN decided they wanted to squeeze the market, and it had been done before, but never to the extent that this was. It was pretty demoralizing. So I was put in charge of basically shutting down the market. Just the one contract. Sorry to dwell on this, but it's kind of a big event. And then after we got everybody out of the pool, so to speak, I was put in charge of the investigation. What came out of that was a new futures contract. We decided we had to design a different contract that would not be squeezable. And so, being on staff, I was assigned to come up with a design. We all do everything by committee at the exchange. So I presented my design to the committee. They made some tweaks. It was a June contract that they squeezed, so we decided we're not going to have a June contract anymore. So they now match with soybeans, and so that's why we have a new contract. Started in 1995, new futures contract has not been squeezed. I don't think it could ever be squeezed. So I think it's been pretty successful. So from there, I went to, as you say, Dean, I went to Sparks. Worked there for a while as a consultant. Did a number of things that I think were kind of interesting. After that, I traded foreign exchange with a colleague, managed foreign exchange for people. Then I just thought I got to get back into ag, and so I started doing consulting in ag, and my main focus is on trading, risk management, that kind of thing. And what have I done? Anytime there's a merger with the grain companies, like when Agricor became Agricor United, any of these mergers would go to the Competition Bureau, in front of the Competition Bureau. I've been involved in every one of those mergers as what they call a subject matter expert. I've been involved in every one of them, either working for the Bureau or for the parties. And so that's been kind of interesting. What else have I done? Well, most recently, I just jump ahead right to what I'm doing now is, excuse me, I've started an online farm community I call it the trading floor. I'd like to show it to you maybe a little later. But basically, my thinking is that the industry needs better cash price information. Grain companies have gotten more and more, I'll say, secretive over the years. They used to put their prices on their website. Now, for anybody to see, now you have to be a client, or it's not even on the website. So I think there's some things that we need to do as an industry to improve price transparency. Futures are one thing, but we really need to know what the cash prices are. So the idea of the trading floor is I want to build up a community where I have, I think we're up to 5 or 6 content providers, myself included. We give our views of the market. And eventually what I want to do is start getting information back from the farm members of the trading floor in terms of what prices they're seeing, that kind of thing. One thing that I've seen over the years is a large increase use in target price contracts or grain pricing orders, whatever. I see the appeal on both from both the farmer and the buyer. I don't like them. I think things like canola, it takes volume from the pit. It hides what really is going on. You know, you might have 500 tons on a target with a client with, say, Viterra. Well, Viterra knows that they've got 50,000 tons at that price. They know where the selling is going to kick in. They know so much more about the market than we do as individuals. So what I want to do is level the playing field. If I can get a community of guys that share where their targets are privately, confidentially, and then we can package it and give it back to them and say, here's where the major selling resistance is. It's just better information that levels the playing field. So that's kind of where I'm heading with that. I do, I'll say, legal work. I'm working at, I was telling Dean the other day, I'm working on as a subject matter expert on a case where Louis Dreyfus sued CN Rail for lack of service 10 years ago. That is keeping me busy right now. It takes a long time to get through the law courts, I guess, but I go in front of a judge next week on that. What they hired me to do is they sued CN lost, and now they have to figure out, well, what are the damages? So they hired me to estimate what the damages were in dollar terms. So that's the kind of stuff I do. Somebody asked me when I'm going to retire, and I'd say, from what? I don't have a job. I just do what I like doing.
I love it, John. Well, so thanks for that. And yeah, so as you said, I started in '87, so I'm assuming like you preceded me on all that stuff, and have a couple extra gray hairs that I don't from both age and the stuff you've had to deal with. That's one thing. But the other thing is I prior to coming back into agrochem crop input side of things, I worked for a major as well on the grain side. And the intent was to have about 80% of purchases come through non-published pricing. So fine, there's a street price every day and whatnot. It's kind of a stink bid sometimes or what have you. But every day I needed to know how many tons I could buy at X. And we would flog the heck out of GPOs, and we knew if the canola price today was $12 and we could buy X tons at $12.75, the guys would just pull the trigger and nobody sees nothing with that. Hey, same thing with the wheat and what you're doing. And so that puts the power in the hands of the grain companies. And this is where you and I align a lot, is my mandate with my company and everybody that wants to be within it one way or another is to have the farmers' interests represented in a way that, if nothing else, you're ahead of the line of knowing information and indicating relationships and all the, you guys being able to talk to each other and all this stuff. But also, if we can aggregate, whether it is tons of this and that, so that John has an analysis of things, and he's not part of iFarm at all. He happens to align with how I think. So that's why I wanted him to get to know you. But, and the same thing goes if we know we got X truckloads of glyphosate or glufosinate or something else, it really makes a significant difference. And whether a guy has 500 tons or 50,000 tons. It really helps to provide equal opportunity for people to have an eye on stuff. And some people, you know, they've got the special relationships and it's all secret and stuff, and that's cool. It's all good. And if you're doing your thing, I don't care. But if there's a chance for us to help, we want to do that. So thanks for that, John. And yeah, that 10 years, for that Louis Dreyfus CN thing. And
it took a few years for it to go through the Canada Transportation Agency and then the courts and whatnot. I was hired 3 years ago to do my analysis, and so now I have to go in front of a judge. So what I've been doing the last 3 days is studying my report because I couldn't remember it.
Oh my God! Well, you wrote some of it 3 years ago, and I heard this a long time ago. A shitty lawyer can make a case go on forever. A really good lawyer, even longer.
Yeah.
That's how that works. The toll's running, and there's all kinds of nuances to that stuff.
Yeah, so, I don't know if you're interested. I was just thinking, I've done these legal things. I was asked also recently to work on behalf of a farmer who was dealing with a grain company. I really should say who's involved, but it was they had a rogue buyer, and this farmer was being offered huge premiums over the market to get delivered to this company, and it almost seemed like a Ponzi scheme. But anyway, the company finally figured out what was going on and cracked down, and they owe this farmer a lot of money, and so they've been fighting, and they brought me in to say, well, like, do they, how much should they? Again, it's a calculation. Like, what should they be getting out of this company? So I just throw that in just to say that that's the kind of stuff. I kind of like doing this kind of stuff.
Well, it's a project, right? You're a project-minded guy, and you've got your day-to-day stuff, but it's nice that you can put your talents to use in a way that gets you going each day, and that's super, super cool. So speaking of your talents, what I'd like to do is just switch briefly to a lot of the hype. It might be a tempest in the teapot. Like we got the TT Trump tariff thing coming about. Maybe he likes to fluff up his feathers and say stuff that may or may not be accurate and all that. And based on your experience, you've seen tariffs, you're through the NAFTA thing, you've been through lots of different stuff, and in however you want to talk about it, if there's not much ado about nothing or whatever, I'd like to get your take, your insight on how this may play out. What, if anything, has happened already in the marketplace to absorb some stuff? And what's your overall take on this kind of thing?
Sure. First, I don't think I'm any brighter than anybody else when it comes to this stuff. I'm just an observer like everybody else. But the idea of tariffs, just generally, forget about this one. I'm not an economist, but I did go to university. I do economist type things. I'll make comments on Agravell or have gone in there for a long time, or on Twitter and whatnot, and people accuse me of being an economist, and I'm not. But having said that, tariffs are terrible. I mean, the idea of slapping on a tariff, you just start a trade war. I think Trump, somebody must be whispering in his ear about history, because years ago when the U.S. just started, they didn't have taxes, but they had tariffs, and the government was financed through tariffs. And so maybe that's a good idea. Well, it's not, because we're way well beyond that now. So just generally speaking, the idea of tariffs just scare the crap out of me. What in this situation, I guess in most of them, the main thing for me right now is the turmoil, the uncertainty. I like certainty. I like knowing what's going to happen, and we don't know. So he was it Monday I guess it was Sunday night or Monday, whenever it was, he slapped on these, or not slapped them on, but announced that he was going to put 25% tariff on everything. Canola collapsed that night. The Canadian dollar collapsed that night. So that morning, I'm looking at the market and I'm thinking, where does it stop? You know, he hasn't even in office yet, so he can't put the tariffs on. So where does it stop? And I noticed we were down $20 on canola, but bean oil was up $1.30. And I thought, well, there's an improvement to the crush margin, because you know, that's basically what I look at as well. What are the crush margins? So I did some calculations, and that morning, the crush margin, I can show you a chart if you want. The crush margin improved, and I'll correct myself, the board crush margin, which is just futures. So you take canola and the soy oil and soy meal, and there's a formula you can calculate what we call the board crush. It improved by 27% that morning. And that was in response to a 25% tariff. So canola went down because of the tariff, but why did oil go up? Well, the perception, and a lot of it's perception, not reality. Perception was, well, if there's a tariff on imports from Canada, the U.S. won't see the 3 million tons of canola oil we export to the U.S., so we'll have to use more soy oil in the biofuels. And so you got to own speculators. You just got to own the oil. And so basically what it did was it compensated the crusher for the tariff. You know, the crush margins improved by 27%. Now there's going to be a lot of noise. It's since gone the other way. We were up $10 yesterday. We're up $8 already this morning. And I think a lot of that is now he's backing off. There's news that he's backing off the idea of tariffs. He's already, this is the way the guy works. He's already announced that he has an agreement with Mexico, that he and the Mexican president have talked, and they've got an agreement, and the immigration, they're going to help out with immigration. They're going to seal the border and all that. Well, the Mexican president came out and said, we have no agreement. We never talked. Showing just the kind of tactics he'll pull. So what I don't like about this right now is the uncertainty. We don't know. He might still go through with it. I don't think so. I think that he must have people that are smarter than him around him, telling him this is such a stupid idea. But Mexico is talking about retaliation. Canada, we're talking about retaliation. So nobody wins going down that path. The stupid mistake he made, in my view, was if he wants to threaten tariffs to get something done, he should have gone trade office to trade office, done it privately, said, let's do this. This is what I need you to do. And if we don't see an improvement, we'll slap tariffs on. He doesn't have to tell the market. And that kind of stuff happens all the time, in the back channels. So what he's done, he's just added a lot of risk, a lot of turmoil in the market. I think eventually, that's my own opinion, I think eventually it'll taper off. I don't think we're going to see these tariffs. It's such a stupid idea.
Yeah. That's awesome. Just I wanted to add one little thing. Like last night at 9 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock China time, we were on with the second largest glyphosate manufacturer, and I asked, what do you think? Well, glyphosate has to be applied, right? The last time things happened like this, glyphosate actually was granted an exemption to the process because of the hurt to the farmer and stuff. Canada at this time is immune to that discussion. It creates opportunities for some with that. And her number one driver was, with the competition and everybody coming in and all this stuff, they are looking for opportunities to go direct with people. that they trust and stuff. So anyway, but that being aside, China, they're patient and prepared, but they, at this time, they're not freaking out about it, because there's lots not said yet too. Like you said, the bloody guy goes and he fluffs up his feathers, and within a couple of days over already conceding and this and that. So, we'll see. So now that the canola has absorbed on the crush side of things, what would your take be on the export side of thing of raw seed? What do you think the appetite is? And I don't know if do you want to just talk a little bit about the canola market in general now and stuff? Did you want to share your trading floor thing with the charts and stuff, and you could just speak to it or whatever?
If you like, I guess put it in perspective of the tariff. It's U.S. tariffing imports from Canada. Well, our exports, same thing. Exports to the U.S. on seed is about 300,000 tons a year. It's minor, and so that alone will not have an effect on canola. I think what we saw was a knee-jerk reaction. We were collapsing anyway for a number of other reasons. So when you're short, you see something like that, you're just going to lean on it. And so that's what happened. But I think we're going to rebound. Let's talk about maybe the canola market. To go back a ways, some of you may have noticed people talking. I'm going to say, well, 2-3 weeks ago, people started talking about, gee, look at all the exports. We are exporting canola like crazy. Mm-hmm. And I don't subscribe to Larry Weber, but I know Larry and worked with him at the Commodity Exchange, actually. But he was saying, look at this, the pace of exports. If we keep this pace up, we're going to hit 12 million tons of exports. Well, we can't do that. So the market has to ration that demand. And on top of that, Stats Canada, their production number is too high. And come December 5th, the truth will come out. It'll be down, depending on who you talk to, 1 million, 2 million tons lower. So he's bullish like crazy. And then I think his name is Bruce Burnett. He wrote, I think, on the Western Producer, the article caught my eye. He said canola has to ration demand quickly, because he saw the same thing, the export pace. And so I looked at it. I thought, and I guess, I don't know, maybe I look at it a little differently. I saw the pace, but what I look at is two things that are really important: the basis and calendar spreads, the spreads between months, which are basically the same thing. A basis is a relative price to the futures, and the spread is a relative price to the next future. They respond the same way to the market. So basis was as bad as I've ever seen it. Average across the prairies, this is posted by the elevator company, so it's not necessarily where it's trading, but it's 48 to 50 under. Admittedly, freight rates are high, and that'll push that, and we can talk about that. But also the spreads, Jan-March, the spread between Jan-March was about 80% of full carry. Full carry is the widest it can go if you have a carrying charge market. There's no financial or economic reason for it to go wider, although sometimes it might go by $1. But with full carry it's a limit. Well, when you're 80% of full carry, that is bearish. That just means the market, they have no appetite for this grain. So why are we talking about the market going to the moon when the market signals, where the commercial traders are saying, I'm not saying what they're doing in terms of buying and trading the spread and so on, it's just not showing it. So at the time, the market was 650, I think 650, 660 on the Jan. So I posted on the trading floor saying, this just doesn't add up. I am not bullish at these levels. And so I posted that, and so since then, of course, the market has collapsed. I'm not saying I was brilliant and saw it coming, but I certainly was not a buyer at those levels. So now we've taken all that out of the market. Now I'm looking at it thinking, at these levels, I would not be a seller. I think we've overdone it. I think the next thing to look for is December 5th when StatsCan comes out. I am a believer that the number will be lower. I think that's partly baked into the market, but the reality will start kicking in, I think, at that time. The other thing, there's something else. The other thing about exports, first 3 months, August, September, and October. Well, at the time, we only knew August and September, but we also now see October exports by destination are record large for that, first quarter. And so I looked at, I also look at a lot of stats like stocks, inventories, and movement, and fundamental stuff. And I noticed that on July 31st, I wonder if I could maybe pull up a chart and show you that. See if I've got it. July 31st are visible stocks and stocks in the system. Typically for canola is around 750, 800,000 tons in the system. And let's see if I got it here. Yeah, there it is. Can I share this?
Yeah, go ahead. If you're, just there's that button with the arrow up on it.
Yeah.
And then you'll have to pick that screen to share.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm a techno weenie, so.
We got you.
Share this. I hope this is the right one. Nothing coming up. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Okay,
so this is screenshot of the trading floor, my app. But if you look at this chart, it's a little smaller than I'd hoped. I wonder if I can make it bigger. No, I won't try. Anyway, if you look at it, it shows total supplies of canola, total visible supplies of canola over the last 10 years. So it's a seasonal chart. Shows how they typically change over. You can see a couple of things like in May, June, how the stocks go down. That's because you guys are busy doing other things. Deliveries taper off and exports continue, shipments continue. So supplies drop. But bring your attention to here. At the end, you can see that typically the inventories drop off. This black line, I made it black so you can see it, goes the other way. So the end of last year, we knew we had a sizable carryout. Typically, the trade doesn't want to carry it. And this year they did. And I don't know if they went after it and said, we need this, bring it in because we got sales or whatever. But having worked at a grain company, if you're in July and your elevators are full of canola, you're going to want to move that. You're not going to say, oh, yeah, let's sit here and wait, we'll apply it to sales for new crop, because you got a crop coming toward you. And so I'm convinced that the trade was very aggressive in July for shipments in August, September, even October. And one trader told me, and think of this as back in September, he said about 3 million tons of sales on the books to China. This was before the China announced that they were going to do this dumping probe. So that's not even a factor. But they had already had on the books 3 million tons. He said when that is finished, and he figured by Christmas, he said there's nothing left. There's nothing else on the books. Now that was back then. So anyway, so that kind of confirmed that somebody got aggressive, whether it was the farmer saying, here, you take it, whether it's the grain companies selling it to China and whoever else, or somebody stepped up and said, we're going to do this business. And so that's why the exports were so large. If you look at August, exports, that's record large for August. And so that's a rarity. So that's why we have such huge exports year to date. Because if it was just this crop year, it would be ramping up now, not in August. So I might be sounding like I'm bearish. I'm not. I think exports are going to be actually pretty good. Not the 12 million tons that Larry Weber's talking about, but I've in my balance sheet, my S&D, I've got plugged in 7.5 million. I think it's going to be more than that. I'm going to change that. And the crush is growing. Will we run out of canola? No, not necessarily, but I think the latter half of the year is going to be pretty good for prices. And I look at basis and spreads, and I think that both of those are going to turn around we're going to see some much better basis later on.
Yeah, speaking of basis, given the crush margins, those plants are going to want to crank out every drop of oil they can on that side, which is 11 million tons, whatever that number is, John. I don't know if you have a number or whatever, but the export of raw seed will be metered out based upon what the crush indicates, likely. And I've got two questions. Harvey, you had a question, and then we'll go to Greg.
Yeah, I'll defer. I'm just getting gas here. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, let us know when you're ready. Yeah, Greg.
So two things. One was you're talking about July and why somebody got aggressive. So I had a contract for canola in July at like 14, 15 a bushel or whatever it was, of which I kind of took a contract that had what I had still in the bin plus for the fall, because I didn't see the fall being a very good thing. And then 2 weeks ago when I said that 1436 that I got, by Tuesday they had dropped the basis and gone a -10, also with the $22 a ton drop that we saw in the price. So that's kind of how that one folded out.
Who's paying 10 under? The basis was
no, sorry, it dropped another 10, so they were at like 10. So I think they ended up at -48 with that. So you drop $22 just on the market, and then they dropped their basis another 10.
Yeah,
and most places around here were -51 to -55.
Yeah. I want to qualify what I said about basis. It's the worst I've ever seen it as posted. But the thing that has happened in the last, I don't know how many years, 2 or 3 years, that I haven't heard many people talk about. I'm sure I'm not the only one that is aware of it. But the railroads now, whereas before they would set a rate for the year because they have the revenue cap, and so here's our rate for the year. But now what they're doing is they're raising their rates in the fall. And so right now, the rail rates are about as high as I've ever seen them. But because of the cap, they can't keep these high rates. What they're doing is saying, oh, the demand is now in the first half of the year, first quarter, first half, whatever. So this is when we'll charge the most. But because the revenue cap, they have to lower the rates later on to stay under the cap. So the last part of the crop year, you'll see the freight rates much better. And that will translate into much better basis. On top of the typical basis appreciation we see through the year. So I think but you're going to see, you're seeing average right now of 50 under. You might see average later at 10 under. It'll be that kind of order of magnitude movement. And we've often seen that. And I don't know if people, I've seen that being the basis appreciation, but I don't think we've ever seen anything, quite that size. So my advice to guys is, I'm not going to tell you when to pull the trigger, but don't touch that basis. Sell futures. Do something in options or something. But don't touch basis unless you need cash flow. Then But the basis I think will improve. And the other thing I look at, one thing I didn't mention about what I do, I run a hedge program. I call it advanced grain pricing, and guys sign up a certain tonnage, and then I work with a broker, and we don't advise on what to do with futures. We actually execute it on behalf of the clients. So broker I use is David Derwin with I think it's Denton Financial now. He is licensed to do managed futures, and so you set up a managed futures account. There's no commissions in that. There's a management fee, but I like it that there's no commission, because then what I do with in that program is we'll put on hedges. We were putting on hedges in the NOV, I think around 670, 680. And when the NOV Jan spread widened to 13 to 15, we rolled the hedge. This might be unfamiliar. So what we did was we bought that NOV back and sold the Jan. So we're buying the NOV 15 under the Jan. that improves your hedge by $15. So that's $670. I'll call it, became $685 effectively. We just did the Jan March a while ago at 13. Added another $13 to our hedge. So when the spreads go to a carry as they are, that is an incentive to carry. But to capture the carry, you have to do what we're doing, was hedging and rolling. And so between that and a better basis, you hedge in the Jan, basically wait on the basis, roll the Jan to the March to the May, and so on. And we've had years where we've done this program, and our net, I don't get involved in the cash trading, the sales, but I will advise on basis, what I see on basis. And we do the futures. You put it all together, and we've had net results at the end of the day higher than the highest street price all year. And I remember I was working with a guy at the time, and we looked at each other. Well, how can we tell people that? How can we tell people we didn't get the best price all year? We got better than the best price. It's because we separated the futures and the basis. And this is what grain traders do all the time. And so we did what we needed to do in futures separately from the basis, and looked at it that way. And so this year I think is going to be a pretty good year as well in that program. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but I think it's all relevant to what we're talking about. But I see good basis appreciation, and and the spreads are also going to pay us to carry. So
yeah, lots to unpack there.
So,
yeah, go ahead there, Harvey.
So John, with the inversion of the palm oil and the inversion of the European canola, is there a possibility that could flip over or narrow in your spreads?
Yeah, it's a good question. What I see, actually, if you want to drill down to some details here, what I started the year at, looking at it, I thought, okay, our spreads are going to go wide, not Jan, March, maybe even March, May. But the first two, anyway, we're going to go to what I thought we were going to go to full carry, and we did. Knob Jan, I think, went to, but did it trade it? I think it traded it under 1500. Anyway, but I also felt that toward the end of the year, the spreads will tighten up. I've been trading. I traded a bit by myself on my own as well. I've been trading the May-July spread. Been buying it, and as it tightens up, I'll sell it. And I'm not ready to put on a longer-term position, but tried to buy it before yesterday's rally at 6 under. Missed it by a penny. But I see the May-July. That's the later spread, actually possibly inverting. Because if we do see some decent export movement, it will taper off, but I think we'll still see a decent export movement. The crush, I've got that plugged in at 12 million. It depends on the tariffs, but like I say, I believe that it's not going to happen. The uncertainty is not going to help us, but the business will be done. I think the market will find a way, and so put that together with a smaller crop than StatsCan is saying, it's starting to look tight. I could actually just pull up my balance sheet and I'll throw that back up. Sorry, this takes a while. Okay. How do I do this again?
So that the square with the up button.
Here, I got it.
Yeah.
Too many buttons to push. Okay. Sorry, it's a little small, but this is my balance sheet. It's the last 3 years, 22, 23, all the way to this year. And if you look, I'll do it over here. You look, this year I've got 7.5 million plugged in for exports, 12 million for domestic. Up here, production, that's just StatsCan production. So you go through all that and you got 1.68 million carryout, stocks to use of 8.4. You'd think 1.6 million, that's decent. That's a lot of seed. Thing is, this is July 31st we're talking about. Crop doesn't come off until, say, mid-September, until it gets into position and everything. So you got to go 4 to 6 weeks with whatever's in the bins. So we're talking about close to 1 month consumption there already. So that's borderline tight as it is. Okay, so then the next column I have what if, and I highlight the production. What if it's 1 million less? Well, then we're bin bottoms. We have to ration demand then. And so I'm looking toward a lower production number, and so that carry out. That's when you'll see basis appreciation. That's when you see the spreads invert. The last column there, I call it pace. So what I'm doing is, if you look at this number, the exports at 12.548. That's taking exports pace year to date and extrapolating it for the whole year. This was Larry Weber's number. He said, "Oh, we're going to do 12 million tons." And right now, the crush is at a pace to do 11.8. So we'll run out, and that was his comment, and Bruce Burdett's comment. We're going to run out. We're going to run out. We won't, but there are a number of signals that are saying eventually this thing's going to get tight. What concerns me is the basis and the spreads just aren't showing it yet. So I'm not terribly bullish yet. Australia's got a crop coming on. There's a number of things. So I'm not getting excited yet. But at these numbers, now that we've washed out so much, at these numbers, I'd be a buyer. I bought it yesterday, by the way. So
That's excellent. Yeah, go ahead, Harvey.
So, John, like you're saying pace at the 12, which is what, maybe an 88 capacity utilization, or what? Because the capacity utilization works out to, at 90%, it's actually 12,300.
And you're talking about crush?
Crush, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
at 90%, it's 12,300, right? So.
Yeah, you're probably right. I've just plugged in 12 because that's basically where we're at. They're crushing, and I look at the capacity. What is the capacity right now? I mean, Richardson's have doubled in Yorkton. I think Dreyfus is close to it.
No, they're ways away from getting capacity.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
lots of cranes in the air.
Yeah, they started working
by this morning.
But Richardson's, they've increased their capacity in Lethbridge. God knows what Cargill's doing. For what it's worth, since we're talking about this, I think the Bunge Viterra deal is going to scupper the Viterra crushing plant idea. They're too dominant in the canola market as it is once they merge.
Well, I heard just maybe it was a couple days ago. It sounds like when the acquisition for Bunge to take over Viterra, that the Fort Sask will get built before the Regina plant ever will get built. Sounds like the ground, that dirt's been bought for quite a long time, and sounds like that build will actually happen before Regina.
Yeah, I'm not that close to it. I did do some work for Bunge and Viterra, and identifying where they're going to be dominant. I'm going to share some sour grapes. I got talking to them. They wanted to know my approach, how I'd done it before with the Competition Bureau, in terms of defining small markets. So I basically told them what the model looked like. The Bureau loved it when I worked for them. So I thought, well, this would be a good approach. So yeah, here comes the sour grape. So they just went ahead and did it. They didn't hire me to do it, but they hired me to take a look at what they had done. And so I was a little pissed off at that, but they're about 5 layers to the model I built, and they used 2. And I told them, I said, I would never submit what you've done here, but I guess they did. So I'm not as plugged into what they're doing, or because I stopped calling them, and I think they've exhausted their need for me, I think, but. The last thing I remember was that it was felt that they were going to have to divest of something in the canola market. because of the joint dominance. So, and of course G3, their ownership in G3 keeps coming up as a factor. So I'd be surprised if they did anything in terms of crushing, but I could be wrong. So.
Yeah, it's good discussion. There's a couple of things I wanted to just circle back briefly on, and then if there's some questions about stuff, that's fine. But one is the front loading of the rail on profit is very unsurprising. They know the cash is needed at the farm gate, so all the free stuff for cash flow purposes is coming to market right now. So they can absolutely do that. And in the event that there is a short crop, they're going to figure that out later. So that's one thing. The second thing would be in terms of the basis levels and things like that, same thing very much applies, that the industry has very little incentive to get too far ahead of itself, given the appetite of the crush and keeping the margins wider. Again, as farmers require more cash flow right now, and you do the coinciding of that between $18 canola down to 12, they get the gravy right now. And so until somebody's going to blink first, and then they're going to start going the inverse to what they are now. But as you indicated, and I agree wholeheartedly, the time today is just to lock the bins if you can, because better things are to come. Make sure your inventory practically is in safe storage conditions and all that stuff. Identify the futures that are proper, and utilizing a platform like yourself. If you don't understand it, take the time to understand it, whether you use it or not, and to discuss how that can work with you or whoever. And then as the basis reveals itself, you'll make that's a secondary decision. The other thing, the last thing I will say relating to dealing with crush versus export, I say practical things all the time. Crushers use a 32 slotted sieve on the bottom, and exporters use a 38 slotted sieve on the bottom. So if there's 2% spread on FM, on dockage or tookage, however you want to put it, not to make it too negative, but it's just the way it is, because that's the rules they're in. Be aware of all of it when you're making that selling decision. So
there you go.
Yeah. But is there, before we move on, relating to tariffs or the canola specifically, does anybody have other questions? Otherwise, I've asked John if he was okay with it, just to share a little bit more about his trading floor and what it's, how to apply it to your farm if you're interested in stuff. Anybody got questions?
Can I just add to that before? Not just questions. If anybody else has some input on what they think is going on or will go on with the tariff, I'd love to hear it. Happy to answer questions, but love to hear the thoughts too.
Well, my comment on tariffs is probably in line with you, but I would say he's getting exactly what he wanted, and I have not read his book, so I can't get the quote from Trump, but you ask for the extreme to get what you want, basically, and he's not even a sitting president yet, and he's already getting phone calls from all these countries, basically giving him the knee, right? So that, we'll maybe give you what you want.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. He seems to be effective in terms of getting what he wants. I'll expose myself and say I'm not always aligned with what he wants to do, though. I'm a skeptic. I'm in the camp where I think, yeah, he might be wanting to do something, but he's going to benefit from this more than anybody else. But I'd love to be proven wrong. I'm willing to give him a chance.
No, I don't think you're proven wrong. Like every decision he makes, it helps. Like it's not for, he says it's for the American people, but he's looking at his friends and his pocketbooks.
Yeah. Think about this. Speaking about tariffs and since we're on politics, the number one, I heard this yesterday, the number one Google search the day after the election was, what is a tariff? So he ran on tariffs and how great it was going to be, and the great population, I think the greatest proportion of the population didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
And they believed him, and I think Harris was just too weak of a candidate to get any resonance behind that.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line with that is Trump would have been one hell of a shock jock on radio, but holy shit, he's got the keys to the bloody kingdom and he knows it. Yeah. So he's a tweet away or an X away or a truth platform away from getting something going. And that's his juju. So anyway.
They needed change, and the people voted for it, and thinking the same thing would happen in Canada if a vote would be allowed to happen.
Yeah. Well, let's move on from politics. We got other shit to talk about. You want to bring your screen up there, John?
Sure. How do we do it?
The square with the up button. Yeah, you got
it. I'm getting good at this now.
Yeah. And it's 9 now, SAS time. So just so you guys know, that's the time. If you need to leave, please exit. But John, this is good stuff, and I want to keep going until we see the end of it. I'm happy to stay on as long as you like, and to answer any questions. But as long as you're good, John, with it, I'm good.
Okay. This is what you're seeing here is let's just get rid of. How do I get rid of the top? Anyway, this is my. It's an app. It's a website, whatever you call it. I call it the trading floor. As I mentioned before, I when I worked at Cargill, I was on the trading floor. When I left Cargill, I worked as a local on the trading floor, and I look back and see that was more than a place to trade futures. It was a form of a community. There are people that didn't even trade, futures directly. Traders from the different companies would come down and talk to people, and we'd have coffee. It was our version here in Winnipeg, our version of the coffee shop, and it really gave me, both as a local and then as a working for the exchange as director of marketing, a real sense of community. And it was like the exchange. Really was there, in my view anyway, we were there to improve the market. I am firmly behind the idea that futures really do improve the market and the information and whatnot. And I've carried that with me since. And I've noticed that we just don't have that sense of community, at least I don't. So I thought that was the genesis of why I wanted to start this. So I want better cash information. That's what I hope to get from the members of the trading floor, but I think I can add value as well. And so we've just started this year, and I'll just scroll through here. Different spaces. There's one, they call it Start Here. And I'm sorry it takes so long. I've got a goofy old picture of the trading floor, and I just comment about what it's all about. Introducing the trading floor, similar. I've got Combine Ag here. I've been in conversation with them. They want to, maybe put something on the trading floor. So I've put that space up. Only I can see it. If any members, they don't even know it's there. I don't think we're going to do anything with them. But who knows, maybe. Then I've got a resource library. I've got different discussion papers. I've got my wheat outlook here, my canola outlook. I wrote a paper about target price contracts. I think I mentioned I'm not a fan. I explain in this why. Some of you may know me as the wheat board monitor. Back 10, 12 years ago, I started writing basically emails to people I knew, and it turned out to be a blog about the wheat board. And it was in that last, just as an aside here, that last wheat board farmer director election, I thought, I know stuff about the wheat board that I think farmers need to know to make a sound decision about who they want to run their wheat board. So I had about 1,000 names in my email contacts list. And so I started sending emails. And it was, did you know and it would be 2 paragraphs. And I would thought, okay, during this election, I'm going to write 1 a day. And so I don't know if you remember, what's his name now? He was the executive director of the Wheat Growers. What's his name? I'm having a senior moment. Anyway, he called me and he said, "These are great, John. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to write 1 a day for the election." And he
was that Menzies or no?
No, Blair Rudder. So Blair called up and I said, "I'm going to write 1 a day." And he said, "Really? Don't you think you're going to run out of material?" I said, "You're kidding, aren't you?" And so some days I wrote 2. And throughout the whole election, and even after the election, I kept writing. I wrote over 100 articles about the Wheat Board and what I saw them doing wrong. The Wheat Board hated it. In fact, I know that my name came up at board meetings. They and this, I'm going to expose my politics. I hated the Wheat Board. I don't know if you guys like them or not. I could tell you stories that would curl your teeth about the stuff that they did, and so I basically took information from their annual reports and showed how stupid it was, and they hated it. I know for a fact that they tried to find out who was paying me. No one was paying me. In fact, as a consultant, I actually terminated some relationships because I didn't want the Wheat Board going after them, because I knew they would, and they looked. I showed the stuff I was writing to Larry Weber. He liked it, and I said, "Put it on your newsletter." He said, "Well, I'll have to think about it." But he did. He put 1 on his newsletter. I can't remember which one it was. And within 48 hours, this is a newsletter he was doing for BASF, I think.
I remember.
Their funders, maybe it was Syngenta. I don't know who it was. I think it was BASF. Anyway, someone at BASF called him about 2 days later, and they said, what are you putting on your newsletter?" And he said, "Why?" I said, "Well, the Wheat Board called us, and they threatened us that they would make life miserable for BASF, and they could in terms of licensing and different seed varieties or whatever. They could make life miserable." And so Larry called me. He said, I can't do it. I can't post this stuff." So I knew that I was getting under their skin. So here I thought, well, it's ancient history, but if you want to know about the Wheat Board, or at least what I think about the Wheat Board, all 100 plus articles are there. Interesting side fact about the Wheat Board: I teach financial risk management at the U of M to the diploma course, diploma program, and I brought up the Wheat Board with my class. Nobody knew what it was. I mean, these are 20-year-old kids, right? And it's been 12 years since the Wheat Board was gone. So when it was terminated, they were just kids, but none of them knew what it was. So that tells you, that it's got, there may be a scar, but there's no scab there left. It's gone.
Attaboy.
Anyway, it got me talking. And so anyway, also I've got spaces here for canola. I might change these and just, so I've got prices here. These, they're static. I update my, sorry if it takes so long. I update my spreadsheet. It automatically goes on here. Members on the trading floor won't get a notification that the canola price has been updated. You just have to go take a look at it. But if I'll go back here. Oh yeah, I missed all this up here. So here, go to my commentaries. So if I post something here, like I posted something on the Trump tariff, members get a notification on their phone, just a notification that like you might get on somebody else. So this is what I wrote. I just gave some thoughts on. We don't export much seed, but we do oil and meal, and I put up a chart there. That's a chart of board crush that a buddy gave me, and this is a percent change from November 25th on the 26th, and that right there. Maybe I can make this bigger. Yeah, there. That's a 27% change right there. That because of the tariff. So this is the kind of stuff I put on there. Marketplace commodities. You guys know Jim Busick down at down in Lethbridge. They post their daily commentary every day. I've got it again. This is confidential. I got Westlock Terminals in here. I've been talking to them. They might want to have a presence on here. You haven't gone any further. Johnson's Daily. We post that every day. It's they post their email goes up here every day. Castle Currency Management. It's a buddy of mine that I used to work with. He gives ideas on what to do with currency. David Derwin, he's the broker I work with. He puts on comments. Last thing he puts on these audio clips. I've got my comments. I don't know if you guys know Trent Clarenbach Research. He's well known in terms of technical trading. I'm not a technical trader. I like what he writes because it makes sense and he's smarter than me. The Advanced Grain Pricing Program I mentioned, explain what it is here. And then there's a spot here for just members only. So if you're a member of the EGP, as we call it, when I do stuff, we put on an option spread position in that program. I advise them through this thing. Southwest Terminal, again, they're not on here yet, but we're talking. AFSC, again, I'm letting out too much here. There's all stuff that's in the works. Nobody else can see these. I just put them up here so that they might see how they might play a role. The reason that why crop insurance might be interested is because they're interested in cash prices, and so they've already said they like what I'm doing here. I don't know what their role might be, but if any, but they like the idea of getting these prices. So down here, I've got canola and I've got wheat. Again, prices, balance sheet. These are all static. Here's the spring wheat cash prices. I like showing it relative to previous years. Stocks and movement, same thing. This is kind of like my Bible. Oh, that won't load right now. Okay, so let's go to this one. So I look at this stuff every week, and canola deliveries this year versus other years. Exports this year versus other years. You can see by this one how front months have been high, higher than before. Usually we get a real dip in August and September. We didn't get that. Year-to-date exports, visible supplies. So this is stuff I look at all the time. Static. When I update this, you don't get a notification. So if you want to look at it, though, it's there. We've got plans on adding more. I want to add value where I can. I've talked to a few other people about being contributors. So we want to make this I lost a member. He signed up, and after a while he said, I thought this was going to be like news. And I said, you can get news anywhere. I'm not going to replace all the news. When I see something in the market, I'm going to tell you what I see and how I feel about it. And same thing with the other contributors. But if you're looking for a daily commentary, this is not the place. If you're looking for ideas on a more of a macro level and what you can do about it, that's what I hope to provide. So I posted 3 things in one day, and I've gone 2 weeks without posting, just because if there's nothing to say, I'm not going to make up something. And the other guys, I think are the same. So there, it's basically a forum where we provide, I think, a lot of good information. I've tried to price it so it's reasonable. I've made everything on the floor free except my comments, because let's say Trent Clarenbach, he's posting here, but he has a service that he charges a fee for. So he puts stuff on here as kind of a teaser. David Derwin, he can't charge for something like this. He's a broker, if you want to use his service, and so on. And the others, same thing. So this is a way of giving some information, but hopefully getting some exposure for them. For me, I got to keep the lights on. This is my mainstay, in terms of this. So I charge $49 a month or $500 a year. And I've been told, why are you so cheap? I said, well, because I want numbers. I think I just want to build a good sized community where we can make a difference in terms of providing good cash information. And that's a two-way street. Hopefully get guys, supporting this in terms of providing prices they're seeing, deals, whatever, their targets, that kind of stuff. And then we'll package that and return the favor. So that's what to do here.
That's
John,
go ahead, Harvey.
so how does that work as far as let's say, the Richardsons and now the D3s are basically location specific for their cash bids and specials that might be posted on their sites. Like, how are you dealing with that?
Well, so how am I dealing with the prices that guys give me?
Well, the cash bids for the grain companies that are kind of in the back, is it the farmer giving you the information?
Yeah. You guys in Alberta might be familiar with a thing called pdqinfo.ca. The Alberta Wheat Commission hosts it. Back in 2015 or 14, I went to them and said, we've got to improve cash prices. And there's federal funding for an association like the Alberta Wheat Commission, not for an individual like me. So we got federal funding to basically start a website called pdqinfo.ca, where all the grain companies provide their daily posted prices, every location. They go into the computer spits out regional averages. It's not ideal. So you go on PDQ Info, you look at the canola prices, and there's 9 different regions, 9 different prices. It's not location specific or company specific. The companies were adamant they did not want to provide that. In fact, they're adamant they weren't going to play. And they went to Ottawa to complain to Jerry Ritz, who was Minister of Ag at the time, that, hey, this is ridiculous. It's whatever. They didn't want to do it. And he said, well, you have a choice. Either you do it voluntarily, or I will legislate you to do it. That's how firmly he was behind the idea. So they do it. It's their posted prices. But I already, I've seen weaknesses in it. I look at the PDQ price, say, for Southern Alberta. I was talking to a farmer, this goes back a few years ago, and we were talking price, and I said, well, canola price is pretty decent. It's 10 under right now. He said, 10 under? I just sold it for 10 over. And that made me realize just the posted prices that they post are really stink bids in a way. And I have a theory about that. I think back to my Louis Dreyfus versus CN file back in 2013. We had that huge crop, 80 million tons, 15 million tons higher than the previous record. Huge crop, couldn't move at all, and the prices collapsed. I don't know if you remember all this. Got to the point where some company said, "Well, that's our price, but we're not buying anything. We can't buy anything because we're plugged." And so I realized after that they kept these bids pretty low, and most of the transactions occur above the bids, and they use these street price, we call them street prices, for overages. So you come in with a contract, and tell me if I'm wrong, but come in with to finish off a contract, and if you're 2 or 3 tons over the contract amount, you sell that at the street price, at 50 under or whatever, and some will say, well, we'll apply that against your next contract and that kind of thing. But if you don't have another contract, I've been told by both some farmers and by people in the trade that the any overage on a contract goes at the street price. Well, that's money in the bank for them.
So John, do you and I've looked at PDQ, and I probably poke holes in it the same as you have as well, but is there not regional differences? Like, it's just being connected with some of my people in the industry. Alberta, you could just pick up a phone and probably get movement. Oh, great. Alberta or Manitoba, Eastern Saskatchewan, but not a chance.
right? Like even the crush bits are full out for 3 or 4 months out, right? And then they'll open up a little bit of space. They'll have a better bid and that kind of stuff as well. But you know, regionally, I think there's a huge differential just for the poke holes at the PDQ as well.
Oh, I would like to comment on that. So you're absolutely correct, Harvey. These are the averages, and I subscribe to it just so I could get my head around it a little bit. And you can do an aggregate one, folks, so you get the whole average, or I picked Northwest Sask because that happened to be what I was interested in at that moment in time. And you do get your bids there. But that's what's powerful about what we're talking about today relating to sharing. We got the board bids at the local, but understanding things like where there is or is not room and things like that. Like if you are in a state of being able to share that information within our network, that's crazy awesome, right? For the benefit of the farmer. I don't care. The grain companies will be fine, right? So that is all I wanted to do, is just make a point of pointing that out as well. So
yeah, I'll just add to that. I think Harvey, we're on the same page on that. Yeah, I like what PDQ does at one level, but at another, it's not very useful. So yeah, if you want to know what what's being paid at Camrose or in Kindersley or whatever, this is not your tool. I use it as an analyst because it shows more effectively than anything, shows trends in cash markets. You know, it's interesting. I mentioned before how the trade used to put all their prices on their websites, freely accessible. So back in 2013, 14, when we had the debacle, I was daily going on to every website I could and keeping track of prices. And it was kind of fortuitous because then years later, Dreyfus hires me to work on this case against CN, and what they wanted me to do is figure out what did they lose. Well, to do that, you need data, and I just so happened to have Louis Dreyfus's bids at the elevators that they were in question, and use that in my analysis. And the question came back, says, where did this come from? And from the lawyers and from the other side, like, who collected? Where did you get this? You got it from Dreyfus? Well, no, I got it at the time. I didn't go find it now. I got it back then, and I collected it and kept it, and it became very valuable. Like, I don't have that anymore. And the reason I want these cash prices for my benefit, my work, is because I have such a focus on basis and spreads. Those to me are very important market signals, whether you use them, trade them or not. As a signal, I think you're in a dark room with a candle if you're not looking at them. And so I think that get a good sense of cash prices is important as an analyst. As a farmer trying to market on any given day, PDQ, it doesn't really help. But like you say, all you have to do is get on the phone and call around, and you'll get your prices on that day. But what day do you do that? Pull the trigger. I guess that's my wheelhouse.
Yeah. So
anyway,
on the trading floor, John, was there anything else you needed to show? I just kind of took over the screen. Did you communicate what you were wanting?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just I would hope that if this resonated at all with anybody, that they could go on. What I can do is send you a link.
Yeah, send it to me. And then for anybody that wants to put up their hand, there's a few people that had to exit. What I'm going to do is I'll text them your stuff.
Yeah.
If they've missed the call, or anybody on this call that wants it, shoot me a text that just says I want John's stuff, and
Yeah.
I'll shoot it to you, and then you guys can figure. We'll get you guys connected if we can help that way. We want to. That's again that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate. Or I guess I haven't already said this, but what I'd want is, like I say, everything but my comments are free. You have to register. You have to give your name and all that. And if you want to subscribe, I guess, to my stuff, like say $49 a month, payable by Visa, and you can cancel anytime. So it's basically free. It's 7 days. I think that it give you 7 days to take a look at it. After that time, the payments kick in, but you can cancel it anytime. So yeah, I'm trying to make it painless. And I'm all ears. If there's something you want to look at, you see value, hey, I'll do the work. I'll do the grunt work and get that kind of analysis out there. So
Yeah, like John and I had some just initial discussions on the input side, if this might align, the iFarm Ag Group might align with that. So we're just at the first baby steps of talking about that, if it's a fit for what you want to communicate or not, John, and we'll more to come on that.
yeah.
Before I leave your part of things, I just threw up this thing on the dollar. You used to do a little bit with currencies. Just in a minute or two, what's your view of a trend? Do you have something as a takeaway and what that can do?
Trend on the dollar?
Yep.
It's going down.
There you go. Right? Just look at the chart.
Yeah. Yeah. I say I'm not a technical trader, but I like trading the dollar because it trends so nicely. So I've been playing it from the short side, and I like the stupid trader I get out at the wrong time and try to get back in, and it doesn't but I've done well with it. I think it still has some downside. We will break 70 cents. We're at 71.3 right now, roughly. I think it's going to continue, and that's supportive to our commodity markets. Maybe not so much for fertilizer, but and equipment. But there you are.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I wanted to apply that over onto the input side. Is that again? There's about a 28-cent cost built into today's glyphosate pricing, and you can put that across a lot of other things. So that's 28 cents a liter, just based on that factor alone basis, not awful long time ago. So just something to be cognizant of is as you're talking to your suppliers. Depends when they maybe stroke their checks for it. Those that have yet to purchase, they've got some things to factor in. That along with what the Chinese currency is doing too. So there's a bit of a calculation to figure that piece of things out on the input side. And and what I wanted to do, because canola was kind of a topic of the day, is just for you folks that may have people or your own operation may have interest. I put together a canola program, and for what it includes is a liter 360 equivalent of 540 glyphosate, that 320 acre case rate carfentrazone, 40 acre case rate clethodim, the normal rate of glufosinate, the 150. We also have the 280 available. So if you're interested, that's good. But based on that 1.35 liter and the regular rate of prothioconazole, so Proline equivalent, 128 mil. And my cost to you works out to $24.40 an acre. So what that is, just to keep it real simple, you buy this program, I give you a 2.4 of the beer you want and a 40 of the whatever else you want. So that helps you remember that number. It's a $24.40. And then I went to one of the larger online-based companies. I did the same metrics, same pricing, their cash price and all that stuff. The same spread of products. They're a couple bucks an acre more. There's a secondary one whose name come up today that also has their prices online. They're at $29.91, so about a $5 spread with me or whatever. and then versus a retail at $32 plus. And yes, some of you might get your black boxes and all this other stuff and get your money back that they keep till you're done at the end of the year. That's fine. I don't care if you want to do that and you see value in all that stuff, that's fine. But if you want to know more, let me know. Hit me back. I'm happy to explain it to you. But if, on the other hand, if this gets you a better deal locally or with another supplier or whatever, you're welcome. So there. That's I just wanted to communicate that, and we want to do what we can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like aged Scotch, so I don't know if that deal
Hey,
applies.
I'll put up my ceiling is $200 for a 40 of something, but that only it's hand delivered, and I bring the glasses, and we can't spoil it with ice, and I get to share a sip or two. Otherwise, yep, we're good.
Can I spoil it with ice?
Some people need the, lightweights, you know how it is. So,
Neat.
so back,
Actually, my preferred drink is a rusty nail. So, throw a little dram of Drambuie in there and you're cooking.
that's right. Yeah, like a good buddy of mine back in the day, we went to Calgary, and we went and took in the Scotch tasting event at this great big bloody warehouse. And they had 80 types of Scotch and 80 different appetizers at some of the high-end restaurants in this thing. You go in, the Highland dancing girls are doing the sword dance and stuff, and they had bagpiper people there. It was just wicked awesome, eh? And so we go downstairs and meet a lot of people that are way above my level of being smart and well off and all that. But we had so fun. But anyway, the guy became what I call, because we had what we called agri coaches then, or ag coaches. He was my Scotch coach because he knew what there was to know about Scotch, and he taught me a lot, and we're still friends today. But he always viewed some of his favorites. It's like an angel peeing on your tongue, is that's what he always would measure his status up against. So some people, they like that, but don't. But anyway, I like Scotch in moderation. So
Of course.
yeah, if you're interested in looking at the input side, I would love to provide you a quote. We can do things by ingredient, and fine, it's a race to the bottom on some of the pricing and stuff. What's useful, if we are able to quote the whole acre, that was basis a 3,000 acre canola package. Again, that 2440 for stuff. I can add dicot in if you want to take some of it off earlier. If you're going to use the quat for something different, we can figure that out. And I'm going to shortly have another one out for wheat, and I'll be sending this out to folks, to those of you that are my agri sales people that are helping us out as our ag reps. Just wanted to let you know that's what's coming on the canola. So with that, I'm going to stop recording. And John, I hope you found this